Have you ever wondered what you could let go of to unlock true happiness and freedom? In our 60s, we often find ourselves carrying habits, beliefs, and pressures that weigh us down. But what if releasing them could lead to a more joyful, fulfilling life in our 70s? Today, we'll uncover 15 surprising things you can quit that might just transform your future. Stay with me. Each revelation will inspire and empower you to embrace this incredible chapter of life fully. Let's begin. 1. Quitting the need to please everyone. In my early 60s, I found myself constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations. My days were packed with helping my daughter with her kids, being the go-to friend for advice, and hosting social events I no longer enjoyed. One afternoon, as I sat completely drained on the couch, it hit me. I had become a yes machine, putting everyone else's needs above my own. That realization didn't come with an immediate solution, but it did spark change. I started small, learning to say no when I felt overwhelmed. At first, it felt strange, like I was letting people down. But over time, I noticed something surprising. The people around me adapted. They respected my boundaries, and I gained back the time and energy to rediscover what truly made me happy, like reading, painting, and taking long walks. If you've been feeling the weight of constant obligations, know this: your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others. Try starting with just one no this week. It's empowering to put yourself first and realize that the world doesn't crumble when you do. 2. Letting go of unrealistic beauty standards. For years, I chased the illusion of perfection. My gray hair was hidden under dye, and every wrinkle felt like a battle I was losing. One day, as I stared at the mirror, my granddaughter walked in, looked at me thoughtfully, and said, "Grandma, your hair is like moonlight. It's so pretty." Her words hit me like a gentle but profound truth. I saw my silver strands through her eyes, no longer something to cover, but something to cherish. That moment marked a turning point. I stopped investing in products that promised to erase the years and started embracing small, meaningful touches that made me feel good. A lipstick that brightened my smile, a scarf that brought out my eyes, or clothes that fit comfortably but made me feel confident. This shift didn't just change how I saw myself, it changed how others saw me too. People responded to the confidence I radiated, not to whether I fit a societal mold. If you've been wrestling with unrealistic standards, try focusing on what makes you feel good. Maybe it's wearing a favorite color or simplifying your routine. Small changes can transform how you see yourself. 3. Releasing the pressure to stay busy. I used to think that being constantly busy made me valuable. My calendar was packed with activities, from volunteering to errands to attending social events. But deep down, I felt more frazzled than fulfilled. Then, one weekend, my sister invited me to her cabin. For the first time in years, I spent 2 whole days doing nothing but reading, sipping tea, and watching the lake shimmer in the sunlight. Those 2 days taught me something priceless. Slowing down wasn't laziness. It was nourishment for the soul. On the drive home, I made a promise to myself to prioritize quiet moments. Now, I schedule sacred idleness into my week. It might be 15 minutes to enjoy a cup of coffee on the porch, or an hour to take a walk with no destination in mind. If you feel like your value is tied to how much you do, try setting aside even 10 minutes a day to pause. Let go of the endless to-do list for a moment and just be. You'll find that the world keeps spinning, but you return to your commitments feeling more grounded and alive. 4. Quitting the habit of comparing yourself to others. I still remember the day I caught myself scrolling through social media, comparing my life to people I barely knew. There was one picture in particular, a woman around my age posing in a gorgeous garden with what looked like the perfect family and an even more perfect smile. For a moment, I felt small. Why didn't I have a garden like that? Why wasn't my life that picture perfect? Then I thought about something my late mother used to say. You never know what's behind someone else's closed doors. That garden, it might belong to a neighbor and the perfect smile. It might be hiding struggles I couldn't see. I decided then and there to stop holding myself to someone else's highlight reel. Instead, I began reflecting on what made my life unique and special. I thought about the meals I've shared with my family, the friends who've stood by me, and the quiet moments I cherish. If you've ever felt stuck in the comparison trap, remind yourself that your journey is uniquely yours. Maybe start by writing down 3 things you're grateful for today. It's a small but powerful step toward appreciating your own life. 5th, letting go of self-doubt. I wasn't always someone who tried new things. In fact, for years, I let self-doubt hold me back. I'd think, what if I fail? Or, what if people laugh at me? That mindset robbed me of so many opportunities until one day, my friend Clara invited me to a pottery class. I resisted at first. After all, I'd never touched a potter's wheel in my life. Clara wouldn't take no for an answer, so I went. I'll admit, my first piece was a disaster. The clay collapsed into a lumpy mess, and I laughed until my sides hurt. But do you know what? That laughter felt amazing. By the end of the class, I wasn't worried about being perfect. I was having fun, and that was all that mattered. That pottery class taught me something invaluable. You don't have to be perfect to try something new. Self-doubt is nothing more than a voice in your head, and you have the power to turn it down. If there's something you've been hesitating to try, take that first step, even if it feels uncomfortable. You might just surprise yourself. 6, releasing the guilt of prioritizing yourself. For most of my life, I thought putting myself first was selfish. My days were spent taking care of others, my kids, my husband, my friends, and I'd leave myself for last. That changed one day when my doctor gave me a stern look and said, "You can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself too." It wasn't easy at first. I felt guilty every time I took time for myself. But I started small, a yoga class here, a quiet walk there. And gradually, I realized something incredible. When I prioritized my own well-being, I had more energy and joy to share with others. One of the best decisions I made was taking a solo weekend trip to a bed and breakfast by the coast. For 2 days, I read, strolled along the beach, and let my mind wander. When I came home, I felt refreshed, and my family noticed the difference. If you've been putting yourself last, try carving out even 30 minutes a day for something that brings you joy. It's not selfish, it's essential. You deserve to feel whole, and when you do, everyone around you benefits. 7, quitting relationships that drain you. I used to think that loyalty meant sticking with people no matter what. There was a friend I'd had for decades. Let's call her Diane. Every conversation seemed to turn into a venting session about her problems, and I always ended up feeling exhausted afterward. I thought being a good friend meant listening, even when it drained me. But over time, I realized something. True friendship should feel like a two-way street, not a one-sided energy drain. One day, after yet another heavy conversation, I decided to take a step back. It wasn't easy, and I wrestled with guilt at first, but I began prioritizing relationships that felt uplifting. To my surprise, I found more room in my life for people who inspired and supported me. It wasn't about cutting Diane off completely. It was about setting boundaries and valuing my own emotional health. If you have a similar relationship in your life, ask yourself, is this connection helping me grow, or is it holding me back? It's okay to put some distance where it's needed. You deserve to surround yourself with people who make your days brighter, not heavier. 8, letting go of trying to fix others. There's a certain weight that comes with being the fixer in a family or friend group. For years, I carried that weight. If someone had a problem, I felt it was my job to solve it. Whether it was giving endless advice or stepping in to help, I thought I was doing the right thing. But the truth was, I wasn't helping. I was enabling. This hit home one Christmas when my son faced a career setback. I immediately jumped in with suggestions and solutions, only to see his frustration grow. Finally, he said, "Mom, I just need you to listen, not fix it." That moment was a revelation. I realized that stepping back doesn't mean you don't care. It means you trust the people you love to find their own path. Since then, I've learned to offer support without taking over. Instead of fixing, I ask, "How can I help?" Or, "What do you need from me?" It's freed me from carrying burdens that aren't mine to carry and strengthened my relationships. If you're a fixer like I was, try letting go of that role. You'll find it's a relief, not a loss. 9. Releasing the fear of loneliness. Loneliness can creep in when life shifts. Kids grow up, friends move away, or routines change. For a while, I dreaded evenings alone. I'd fill the silence with TV or busy work, anything to distract myself from the emptiness I felt. But one night, as I sat by myself with a cup of tea, I decided to stop running from the quiet. I began exploring activities that made solitude feel fulfilling instead of isolating. I started journaling, which helped me process my thoughts and reconnect with my inner self. I joined a local book club, not just for the company, but because it reignited my love of reading. Slowly, I realized that being alone didn't have to mean feeling lonely. It could be a chance to discover who I was outside of my roles as a mother, friend, or partner. If you've ever felt the ache of loneliness, try reframing it as an opportunity. Pick one small thing you've always wanted to do for yourself, a hobby, a class, or even just a walk in nature. You might find, as I did, that the best company can often be your own. 10. Quitting the need to hold on to stuff. There was a moment when I opened a drawer and found an old scarf I hadn't worn in over 20 years. It was a gift from a friend I'd lost touch with, and while it had sentimental value, it was just sitting there, collecting dust. That drawer wasn't just full of items. It was full of guilt, memories, and the weight of things I didn't need anymore. One Saturday, I decided it was time for a change. I turned on some music, grabbed a donation box, and started going through my closet. Each item I let go of felt like shedding a layer of the past that no longer fit who I was. The scarf? It went to a charity shop where I hoped it would find a new owner who'd appreciate it. If your home feels heavy with stuff, consider starting small. Pick one drawer or one corner and let go of what doesn't add joy or utility to your life. It's not about losing memories. It's about making room for new ones. 11th, letting go of old grudges. Forgiveness is one of those things that sounds simple but feels impossible in the moment. I held on to a grudge against a family member for years, replaying arguments in my mind and thinking of all the things I should have said. It was like carrying a heavy backpack everywhere I went. One day, during a walk with a close friend, she asked, "Does holding on to this make you feel better?" Her question caught me off guard because the answer was obvious. It didn't. It was draining me, not them. I decided to write a letter, not to send, but just to express everything I'd been holding on to. The act of writing it down felt like taking that heavy backpack off for the first time in years. If you're carrying a grudge, try this. Write it out, speak it out, or even just take a deep breath and let it go for yourself, not for anyone else. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning hurtful actions. It means freeing yourself from their grip. 12. Releasing fear of the future. The future used to feel like a shadow hanging over me. I'd worry about everything: my health, my finances, even the world my grandchildren would grow up in. One evening, I found myself staring at a list of what ifs I'd scribbled down, and I realized something startling. None of them had actually happened yet. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't let fear steal my present anymore. Instead of focusing on what might go wrong, I started paying attention to what was going right. I began practicing mindfulness, taking a few moments each day to notice the little things: a bird singing outside my window, the warmth of my morning coffee, the laughter of my family. If you've been stuck in fear of the unknown, try grounding yourself in the here and now. Take a moment to look around and find something beautiful, something steady. The future will come, but today is yours to enjoy. 13. Quitting the belief that it's too late. For the longest time, I told myself that certain things just weren't meant for me anymore. Learning to play the piano was one of them. It was something I'd always wanted to do, but by my 60s, I thought, what's the point? I should have started years ago. That belief sat with me until one day, while visiting a friend, I saw her grandson playing a simple tune on a keyboard. He looked up and said, "You should try. It's easy." Something about his innocent confidence made me pause. That week, I borrowed a beginner's keyboard and started tinkering. At first, my fingers felt clumsy, and I laughed more than I played, but little by little, I improved. A year later, I could play a full song, and the joy it brought me was worth every awkward note along the way. If you've ever thought, it's too late for me, let me tell you, it isn't. Start small, whether it's a skill, a hobby, or a dream you've pushed aside. You'll be surprised how much life still has to offer when you're willing to try. 14th, letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism was my shadow for years. It followed me into everything I did: hosting family dinners, decorating the house, even writing holiday cards. If something wasn't just right, I'd obsess over it until the joy of the task was completely gone. One year, I spent hours baking cookies for my grandkids, only to end up in tears because they didn't look like the ones in the cookbook. Then came the turning point. My youngest granddaughter picked up one of those misshapen cookies, took a big bite, and said, "Grandma, these are the best cookies ever." Her words were a gift. I realized that no one cared if the cookies looked perfect. They cared that I'd made them with love. Since then, I've given myself permission to let go of the need for everything to be flawless. Whether it's hosting a get-together or trying something new, I focus on the joy and connection instead of the outcome. If perfectionism has been holding you back, try this. Aim for progress, not perfection. Celebrate the effort you put in, because that's what truly matters. 15. Releasing the need for control. I've always been a planner, from vacations to dinner menus. I liked knowing every detail was accounted for. But life has a funny way of teaching us that control is an illusion. For me, that lesson came during a family road trip when our car broke down in the middle of nowhere. We had no cell service, no nearby help, and nothing to do but wait. At first, I felt panicked. This wasn't the plan. But as we sat by the roadside, something magical happened. We laughed, shared stories, and watched the sunset together. By the time help arrived, I realized that some of the best moments happen when we let go of control and simply experience what life offers. If you've been clinging tightly to control, try loosening your grip. Start with small things, like letting a loved one plan a day out, or being open to last-minute changes. You might find, as I did, that life's surprises often turn out to be its greatest gifts. You've seen how letting go can open the door to joy, freedom, and new possibilities. Remember, your journey is unique, and your beauty shines brighter with every choice you make for yourself. Share your thoughts below. What's one thing you've let go of that brought you happiness? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for even more inspiring ways to thrive in this incredible chapter of life. Let's keep growing together.